Hello everybody and welcome to Theology 101. In a previous video, I talked about how Jesus was both fully man and fully God. I'll link a video above just in case you missed it. Now, this leads to a dilemma. If Jesus' incarnation required that he surrendered his rights to exercise his divine attributes, then how did he do miracles? Some Christians might immediately say that Jesus did his miracles because of his divine nature. And it is true that Jesus remained fully God while he performed his miracles. But to credit Jesus' miracles all to his divine nature does not explain the role of the Holy Spirit. We have to remember that the incarnation says that when Jesus took on full humanity, although he remained fully God, he put himself in a position of dependence on God. His divine nature did not mix with his human nature, and his divine nature did not eat up his human nature like Pac-Man. Instead, Jesus' divine nature and human nature remained distinct. Jesus' divine nature did not change his human nature or vice versa, and they were not combined to make one new nature. Jesus was one person with two natures. This is why as a man, Jesus did not live with a cheat code or something. He did not bypass the human experience. He had to grow up mentally and physically, and just like us, he had to depend on the Holy Spirit. By the way, the word Christ means anointed one. It is a title. It's not Jesus' last name like he's Mr. Christ. The title of anointed one was given to kings, priests, or prophets in the Old Testament. And the point of this title is to say that God has set apart a person and empowered him for a specific purpose. Isaiah prophesied in the Old Testament that a Messiah will come who would be empowered by the Holy Spirit beyond the typical prophet, king, or priest. This is why John writes that Jesus received the Spirit without measure to show us that Jesus is the anointed one, or Christ. This explains why you see the Holy Spirit show up in every important event in Jesus' life. The Holy Spirit was the one who caused Mary to be pregnant with Jesus. When Jesus was baptized, the Holy Spirit came down in the form of a dove and rested on his head. When Satan tempted Jesus, the Holy Spirit filled Jesus and sustained him through temptation. Jesus prayed to his Father through the enablement of the Holy Spirit. And even when Jesus resurrected from the dead, the Holy Spirit was involved in that miracle. And we see that the Holy Spirit was the one who empowered Jesus to do his miracles. This is why we don't see Jesus perform miracles until after he was baptized by the Holy Spirit. Because Jesus did not perform his miracles by exercising his divine nature, but by depending on the Holy Spirit. Now, if you're a little skeptical, let me show you a passage where this becomes clear. When the Apostle Peter shares the gospel to Gentiles, notice how he describes Jesus, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power. He went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil, for God was with him. Peter says that the Holy Spirit empowered Jesus to do his miracles and healings. In his divine nature, Jesus doesn't need to receive any more power because he already has all power. But in his human nature, Jesus chose to limit his right to exercise his divine nature. This is why Peter said that Jesus healed because God was with him. He did not say that Jesus healed because Jesus was God. In other words, Peter attributed Jesus' miracles to the empowerment of the Holy Spirit rather than to Jesus' divine nature. The reason why this is important is because a person performing miracles does not prove that that person is God. Why? Because other people perform miracles in the Bible. When Jesus healed people and cast out demons, he gave the same power to his apostles. When Jesus brought Lazarus back to life, well, the prophet Elijah did the same thing in the Old Testament. Miracles alone do not prove the divinity of the person who performs those miracles. Even evil people can perform miracles. Jesus said that false prophets will do miracles and cast out demons. And the Apostle Paul writes that in the future that the Antichrist will perform miracles. At this point, you might be thinking, then what makes Jesus different than any other man if other people can do miracles? Good question. As a man, Jesus still depended on the Holy Spirit. But unlike a typical man, because of his divine nature, he could not ever sin. Jesus is uniquely the perfect man. He is the only person who perfectly obeyed the law. He is the only person that does exactly what the Father wants at all times. This is why his miracles were seen to be different than miracles of other people. You see, other people's miracles testify to God's power, but Jesus' miracle testified to his identity as Messiah, who was also divine. Let me explain. Jesus quoted Isaiah chapter 61 verse 1. This passage describes the Messiah being empowered by the Holy Spirit to bring good news to the poor. Part of the Holy Spirit's empowerment of the Messiah means that the Messiah would perform miracles that only God can do. For example, it was prophesied that the Messiah will bring sight to the blind. And so when Jesus heals a blind man, that blind man rightly concludes, never since the world began has it been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a man born blind. This is the same Messiah that is described as mighty God. So it is true that Jesus and other people perform miracles by the power of the Holy Spirit. And it is also true that miracles alone do not prove a person's divinity. But Jesus' miracles were signs that pointed to his identity as the Messiah. And this Messiah is a human king who is also called God. So I want to start a series that goes over the 7 signs of Jesus from the Gospel of John. Signs point to a reality beyond itself. If you see a picture of a cigarette crossed off, then you know that that sign points to the reality that smoking is not allowed in this area. In the same way, when Jesus turns water into wine, for example, that miracle is pointing to a reality of what that water and wine represents. It points to the identity of Jesus as the Messiah. So if you're interested about these 7 signs of Jesus, starting this Friday, I will be releasing a second video each week that will go over each sign from the Gospel of John. So please make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you will be notified when each video is released. If you found this video helpful, please like it and share it with a friend. And until next time, see you.